Hey people, I have a build to show you in MPT. It's called the Berkshire Hathaway build. Why is it called that? Well, like Berkshire Hathaway, it is very greedy, but also surprisingly almost 100% safe. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what makes it so effective. I'm going to show you what you need to do this build. But first, I'm just going to play it through it once so you can see what's up. So, we've got decent land and we're an agricultural civ. Walk worker to forest. We work the forest tile for 2 turns. Switch to the bonus grassland. Okay, new citizen is assigned to the forest. 2 more turns. And there it is. So, what do we need to make this work? Well, we'll run it through one more time just so I can show you guys. So first of all, like I said, we need an agricultural civ and we have to have a source of fresh water. This gives us the bonus food in our capital, without which the build isn't possible. So we need at least 2 forests, one for us to be able to work and another for us to chop with our worker. We also need at least 1 bonus grassland. So we do 2 turns like this. We get 6 shields in the box. So we'll count our shields. That's 3, 3. So a total of 8 now. New citizen is going to be assigned to the forest. So that's another restriction on what we need. We can't have, if this bonus grassland had a commerce and these forests didn't, then the new citizen would auto-assign to the bonus grassland. You also have to have emphasized production turned on for this to work. So yeah, the bonus grassland can't have more commerce than the forest. The forest has to have the same or greater commerce than the bonus grassland. So our city grows. New citizen is assigned here. That's an extra 4. So what do we have? 8. So now we have 12 in the box. So we get 4 more. So that's 16 plus this. So 26. And then the last 4 for 30. So why is this build so good? Well, first we'll talk about how safe it is. So you can do this build against any civ in the game. You can do it against Aztecs, Incans, Zulu, Sumeria, all of the really aggressive early game civs that I'm sure you guys are tired of dealing with. So if you switch from this to this, then you can have your first warrior out on turn 7 because your granary is done turn 6. So that means, let's say the Aztecs, they plant first turn. Normally the Aztecs, unless they have something crazy like deer on forest, their first jag is going to come out turn 4. So that means they have to be 5 or 6 tiles away from you for them to get the jag on top of you before you get your first warrior out. But not too close. They can't be 4 tiles away, because if they're 4 tiles away, then you'd be able to see their border and you wouldn't go for this build. Sometimes even if they're 5 tiles away, you'd be able to see their border if the mountain is in that position, and you wouldn't go for this build. So the stars have to, and they have to scout in they have to send their jag in the perfect right direction. They have to have good land. They have to not walk. The stars have to perfectly align for anyone to be able to really punish you for going for this build. So it is extremely safe. One thing you might be thinking is, why don't you go for warrior first? And the reason for that is that if you go for warrior first, then the granary is not going to be done before you grow to size 3, and that will cost you 5 food. And that extra 5 food is just such an amazing boost that it makes delaying the warrior totally worth it in most cases. So that's why it's so safe. Why is it so effective in a greedy sense? Well, you might hear me say sometimes that going granary on one city isn't very good. In fact, it is almost always strictly worse than simply getting out a second settler and planting that city. So it will produce fewer shields, less commerce, and if you're a non-agricultural civ, doing the granary will actually get you less food than just building the settler and putting the settler down. So that is assuming that you slave granary, because in the standard way you do it is you slave granary once you have 10 shields in the box. If you just go for the granary outright and you don't slave and you don't lose that population, then it's actually better to get the granary in your capital before you get the settler. There's just very few situations where you'll have 30 shields with no slaving without some sort of setback in terms of your build in some other capacity. But this is one of them, because you get the 10 shields from the chop, and even though you lose the worker moves, you have the extra population, which because you're agricultural and because you have the forest and the bonus grassland, you can benefit a lot from having that extra population. So if you're going for hyper expansion, you're trying to build a million cities, obviously having this early granary is quite good. But even if you're attacked relatively in the early mid game or even in the early game, turn 10 or something, this is phenomenal because you have 5 shields per turn very early. You can, if you're like hunkering down and like you got a bunch of Jaguar warriors on you, you could pretty easily get to, what is it, 5 population or 4 population? Or 5 population probably, when you can do 1 archer per turn or 1 spearman per turn. So yeah, you have a lot of scaling options for this build, and like I said, it is super, super safe. It's almost impossible for them to punish you for it. So let me show you a sample build. Let's on the safer side. You could go like warrior into settler or something like that if you're fairly like if you weren't against any Aztecs or Incans or Zulu at all. I might do that. But let's say we're against Incan Samaria or something like that. So we grab the warrior. Let's just get. We could even get 3 warriors. Yeah, swap here. So normally I wouldn't recommend doing the 1 surplus food per turn like this, but in this case you've already done something super greedy, and if that's what you need to do to like make sure you're safe, I think it's totally justifiable. So swap here. 5. Good. Perfect. And now if you really need it, you can go back to doing this 1 per turn warrior. Great, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time.